Hi, this is Scott Garibay, and today we're going to talk about Dungeons & Dragons 5th Edition, the tabletop role-playing game industry, and what tabletop role-playing game writers make money-wise. All right, so I saw a really fascinating discussion on Twitter, and I'm on Twitter, all kinds of tabletop role-playing game debates rage. It's the place for tabletop role-playing game debates. It's a good place for them. There's smart people who care about it on Twitter, right? So what do tabletop role-playing game makers, how much money do they make? They make dirt. You cannot support you and the ones you care about on this, you and your family on this. You could, I don't know, I'm not sure you could even, you could probably support one person on it, but generally tabletop role-playing game writers, not company owners, not product owners, writers, they make dirt, right? So let's talk about it, because the numbers just came out on Twitter. So I saw this one good thread, and basically it clarified that tabletop role-playing game writers today, the very worst contracts are signed at half a cent a word. Half a cent a word. That is bad. I'll tell you how bad that is in 1 minute. The very best in the industry make 30 cents a word. Okay? Now let's do the math. Let's put that into real US dollars. Okay? So 100,000 words is 400 pages. Okay? 400 pages is a whole tabletop role-playing game. You could write a tabletop role-playing game from start to finish. Now, and that would be a whole tabletop role-playing game. Some of them are shorter. Good example would be like, maybe a lot of, actually, almost all Dungeons & Dragons books are 250 pages, right? But Zweihander is 600 pages. Actually, it's close to 700 pages. And there are a lot of, so 400 pages is a pretty good mark. It's definitely will cover a whole tabletop role-playing game. Now, just to be clear, not only are you doing the writing, but you're also doing the design, because there's nobody in the business is like, I write the rules and then somebody else writes it down. Writers do the design as well. Okay, so if you now basically to write a whole tabletop role-playing game, it'll take about a year. It really will. To do 400 pages of content, it's going to take about a year. So what would the worst paid tabletop role-playing game writer in the world get paid? Contract, professional, right? The worst would be for 100,000 words for 400 pages of content, they get paid $500. That's at half a cent a word. That is bad, right? Guess what the best is? $30,000 for writing an entire tabletop role-playing game. That is a bunch of crap. That is terrible, terrible, terrible money, right? Now, this is numbers to what I already told you like a month or two ago. No one, absolutely no one, goes into tabletop role-playing games to make money. It is a horrible, horrible, horrible industry to make money in. It's virtually impossible. The reality is, I don't think anyone actually works in tabletop role-playing games outside of Wizards of the Coast, outside of Modiphius, and outside of maybe Monty Cook Games, and maybe 2 or 3 other companies in the world, right? And all of them just make okay money, right? I doubt Mike Merles even makes $150,000 a year, right? Like, that's not much. It really isn't much at all, right? And so the reality is, I don't think there's a tabletop role-playing game professional in the world who makes more than $200,000 a year, right? And I really don't. It's an absolutely catastrophically bad industry to be in. And so the numbers are very real and very scary, right? So where we land is the only people who are writing tabletop role-playing games are ones who are doing it not for the money. They're doing it for the street cred, right? Because right now, the best writers in the world in tabletop role-playing games are making $30,000 a piece. $30,000, right? Now, I know what you're going to say. You're like, Matthew Mercer and Matt Colville, they make a lot more than that. They're not writers, right? They're D&D celebrities, and they must go on camera, right? They're celebrities. They're paid for their celebrity. They ain't paid for, nobody's paying Matt Colville for his writing, right? Like, they pay him because he's got a YouTube channel. It was required. He literally built a studio, right? So writers make dirt. They make nothing, right? Let's talk about the right or wrong of this. I think it's right, right? I think it's like, I'm totally okay with somebody writing 400 pages and getting paid $500. And I'm totally okay with somebody writing 400 pages and getting paid $30,000. Both of those are fine, right? And the reason why is no one feeds themselves with tabletop role-playing game money. No one, right? And we need to understand this. This industry is not strong enough literally to support even 1,000 people in America, I would say even 100 people in America as professionals. That's how weak this industry is, right? It is, tabletop role-playing games are very, very, very bad from the money perspective. Now, what should be the response? We desperately, desperately, desperately need sponsorship in tabletop role-playing games. It should be Index Card RPG brought to you by Pepsi. It should be Bluebeard's Wife brought to you by Nike, right? This is the only way this industry is going to get real numbers and be able to support real people who have real families, right? The kids got to eat, right? And there's no reason that, like, tabletop role-playing game writers should have to be celibate. And right now, with these numbers, you'd have to be celibate, right? There's just no way you're going to support anybody with this kind of money, right? In America, no way, right? So we really, really, really need to go to sponsorship. It is very, very important, and I feel very strongly that we should go to product placement within tabletop role-playing games. It's the only way the industry is going to grow, and to keep sticking our nose up at it is a very bad idea. So final on this video, the worst tabletop role-playing game, professional writers make half a cent a word. The best in the world make 30 cents a word, right? So be clear. If you want to be a professional tabletop role-playing game writer, don't get too attached to eating on a daily basis. You might have to eat every other day. All that's my opinion. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Let me know in the comments below. Please consider liking and subscribing, and have a wonderful millennium.